Welcome to our new permanent TSB Ideal Home Show video series, Meet the Experts. Our 3 episodes will cover home inspiration and offer expert guidance with special guests. Today we'll be discussing home energy upgrades, investing now for a sustainable future. And I'm delighted to welcome our experts, who I'm sure everyone will recognise from watching them on TV, architect Hugh Wallace and quantity surveyor Patricia Power. Before we start the discussions, a quick reminder that the Spring Show is on from Friday 21st to Sunday the 23rd of April at the RDS Simmons Court, and it promises to be a fantastic show packed with choice, advice and inspiration for your home. There is an early bird offer of 2 free adult tickets for the day of your choice, but it's only available for a very limited time, so don't forget to head to the website and register now at idealhome.ie. Today's topic is home energy upgrades, investing now for a sustainable future. Hugh and Patricia, you are so welcome here today. There's so much for us to get through, but I guess to start off, Hugh, as an ambassador for Electric Ireland Super Homes, you're dealing with energy dilemmas and solutions every single day. And for you, Patricia, we've all seen how passionate you are on TV when it comes to making homes as energy efficient as possible. So maybe we should start there. How can we future-proof our homes? Hugh, I might start with you.
Well, first of all, it's quite complex, just to lay that on the table. So you have a thing called a B or cert, which registers the energy efficiency of your house. It's the exact same when you go and buy a fridge.
Yeah.
And it shows you how efficient or not the house is. And the ideal thing is to get that house up to a B2. And when you get it to a B2, then you can actually use a heat pump. And that's where the huge benefit is. But on that journey, you have to get your house assessed as to how you're going to achieve a B2 rating. And how you get to that rating is done by an inspection. And somebody comes out and rates your home and said, these are the things you have to do to achieve a B2. And based on that, you get grants. And the SEAI issue those grants. You can do it by yourself, but to maximise the benefit of the grants, you really need to go to a one-stop shop, such as Electric Ireland Super Homes. And that's where you're going to get, if you like, the biggest bang for your buck, because they will assist you in your journey.
And Patricia, I presume for everyone, it's a very, very individual.
That was really good. Well done.
I guess for everyone, that journey to getting to a good rating is going to be very different for everyone. You're in different kinds of homes every single day, so I'm sure no 2 homes are the same. It really depends on the standard that the house is in when people start the journey.
Yeah, absolutely, Joe. Everybody's home is different. So as Hugh said, the importance is that you get somebody out to actually do an assessment of your home, and they will walk around your home and they will look at what your windows are, the build-up of your external wall, your floor, your attic. They'll check, is there any insulation in it at present. They look at how your home has been heated, and then obviously that's how that heat is being retained. So they'll come back and they'll say, listen, your house is a G or an E, or it could even be a C, and then they'll give recommendations on what you need to do to bring that up to a B. And some situations, they might even recommend what you need to do to bring it up to an A, So it is very important that you get the experts in to do that initial assessment to see where you are. Like anybody today, if you're renting a home or if you're selling a home, you have to have a BER. I always say to people when they ring me up and they say, listen, I'm looking at a house, I'm thinking of buying it, what will I need to do to upgrade it? And the first thing I would say to them, what is the BER? Some will know that answer, and it's amazing the amount of people that don't. They don't look at the BER. It just doesn't register. They're kind of walking around the home and they're looking at the paint and the interiors and how it's finished. They're not actually looking at this home and what I need to do to bring this home up to a suitable level of kind of living standards that we all kind of we've all grown to acquire. Everybody's, I think, standard of living has increased over the last 10 to 15 years. Nobody wants to be cold or drafty anymore. Everybody wants a nice, warm, comfortable home, and that's what we're after. But as Hugh did say, it is complex and it needs to be done properly. So you need the experts in, first of all, to do the report and the assessment, and then take it from there. And there's options. There's loads of options for everybody. You can go down the one-stop shop route, or you can do it yourself piecemeal over time if funding doesn't allow.
So there's all these buzzwords that we're all hearing now, which is the one-stop shop, the SCAI grants. Like, there's a lot going on, but for Hugh, for someone who really is starting from scratch, what is the service that Electric Ireland Superhomes really gives people if they're starting from day one?
They'll go in, assess your existing home, and give you, if you like, a shopping list of the priorities and order that you could retrofit the home. And with that comes grants. But to maximise the grants, it's about doing it in one hit. It's about going and getting the work done in its entirety. So you're maximising the benefit from the offset. And those grants vary from €12,000 to, in some cases, €35,000. So there's a range in between where, if you like, you're more than likely to be. So, for example, in my house, my grants will come to 17,500 because of the age of my house and also because of the amount of work I can do. I can't do it fully, but I can get up to a B2 rating, which allows me to have a heat pump. And that really is where you need to get your home. That would be fair, wouldn't it?
It would, absolutely, yeah, absolutely. A lot of people would come to me and say, where do I start? And okay, we've discussed initial assessment. I would always say to people, the first thing you need to do is look at the envelope of your home. You need to upgrade that. So that's looking at the attic insulation, it's looking at the wall insulation, which there's loads of options, from internal dry lining to external insulation to sometimes cavity beads, a fill, or even a mix of or hybrid of those treatments of your external wall. You look at the floor insulation, and then you look at the glazing, the air tightness, so all of that. So the first thing you kind of do is look at the shell, the envelope, upgrade that. So when you have that up, that it's up to a good level where it's going to hold the heat, then what you're going to do is look at how you heat it. And really the buzzword is a heat pump, and air to water seems to be the one that is really, really winning at the moment. What it does is it works off electricity, and it takes in the air, and then it heats up with the hot water. So it runs your hot water and your heating system. So it's very energy efficient. Gets rid of the oil boiler, the gas boiler. So that is really, anybody coming to me looking for heat, a source of heat for the home, that's really the one that is everybody's doing at the moment.
So what's very important here is it's about insulation, but more importantly, it's about air tightness. So you can put in the new windows, double glazed, all that good stuff, but all of a sudden you have leaks around the window. And that negates, if you like, against being able to use a heat pump. So these are all important things to be aware of in looking at a home. I would also suggest that using solar is a great opportunity to at least get all your water heated, all your tap water and your showers and everything else. And that to me is really, at the moment, good value and is worth doing. And we also have to understand that over a very short period of time, heat pumps will become more and more efficient.
They will,
And so it's like old boilers work for ever. Now we've got condensing boilers, and they're up to 90% efficiency. And equally with heat pumps, really in a very short period of time, they will become more efficient, and also, if you like, be able to do homes that maybe can't get to a B2. But at the moment, you must get to a B2 to use a heat pump. If you don't achieve that target, and also air tightness, it's not feasible to run on a heat pump.
I loved what you touched on there, Hugh, which is the solar, because that's become very affordable. So perhaps for those watching who are really excited to do a big retrofit at some stage, but if they're not quite there, they're looking at finance and other things, is solar a nice short-term thing to maybe look into and see if it's suitable?
Yeah, very much so. Because you will get an instant reward, an instant return on it. It will heat your hot water. So immediately you're not using your oil or your gas source to heat the hot water, which is like everybody is showering. You need it for doing your dishes, you're washing up. So it is a necessary daily use. So it will be an instant reward, and it's not going to break the bank. It's not a one-stop shop, but there is individual grants for it. So I suppose what I would say to people is, if you can't do the one-stop shop and, it's too much money initial outlay, and you do need to phase it over the years, then you need to break it down in what you do first. And absolutely, putting in your solar panels first is, there's no harm in doing that. And then maybe coming back and looking at the house and how you're going to wrap that from an insulation and airtightness point of view. So absolutely, it's more having the long-term plan, if you are going to do it bit by bit, what you're going to do for the next 1 to 2 years or next 3 years, and what you're going to do after that. So you're not going to undo what you've done. So it's money spent wisely is what I would say.
And also Electric Ireland Superhomes will also assist in introducing you to financial institutions based on their report and an estimate of the value of the grants available to you. So if you like, you're then in a position to get that much needed loan. And so there, as I said, the one-stop shop covers a multitude of options and solutions, and it is a journey, and you have to make sure that it's done correctly. And if you like, the idea of the one-stop shop in Electric Ireland Superhomes is to keep an eye with you on that journey, ensure that the result at the end does exactly what it's supposed to do on the tin.
So would you suggest to, for anyone watching who maybe hasn't really considered this, or they've heard a lot about it but they're not sure, and maybe they're not ready to dive in yet, is it still worth having a conversation with the team just to see what a plan could look like?
Absolutely, because what they'll do is come inspect your house, complete a report, and give you your shopping list. And then at that point you can decide to do it yourself in a particular order, or you can decide, I'm going to take on the leg of the elephant and do it all now. And they're going to assist you in that process.
Yeah, and they will apply for the grants on your behalf.
That's the most important thing.
Which is very important, because I think people hear grants and think, I'm going to be
paperwork.
Flooded with paperwork.
Yeah.
No, but
you
that's
need an expert to do that for you.
correct.
Yeah.
Correct, and to maximise the grants on your behalf as well. And that's very important.
It is, absolutely.
Well, we're talking a lot about, thinking really smart when it comes to finances. And Patricia, that's a question that has come up so many times. People are wondering, is now a good time to make a move, whether they're extending, they're refurbishing? What do you think?
I think there's no time like the present. That's what I would say. We've all been, I suppose I've had particular clients over the last kind of 9 to 12 months particular that have said, it's risen so much. Should we wait? And I've had clients that have waited and the prices have not dropped. If anything, there is a slight levelling off in some areas, but we're still seeing increases. Nothing like the increases we saw probably 2 years ago, where it was month on month. I mean, timber was going up, steel was going up every month. It's not at that range at all. It's definitely a lot more palatable, but it's not dropping, is what I would say.
And it won't drop.
No, I agree.
No.
I don't believe it's going to drop. We'd need a big, massive recession for it to drop. So I don't think it's going to drop. So I just think we just have to grin and bear it, and we just need to move on with our lives. There's no waiting.
And sometimes that's the encouragement that somebody needs. If they have been sitting on things and months are going by and nothing's being done, sometimes you just have to go for it. I know you're undertaking work at the moment, so sometimes you have to bite the bullet.
You just have to bite the bullet and get on with it.
Yeah.
Because in my opinion, it's quite interesting. You're going to spend a lump of money.
You are, yeah.
And if you like, the only difference is the addition. So do you know what I mean? And then you just have to make choices.
Yeah.
And you decide, I put in all the services in my ensuite, but I won't put the bathroom in now. That's what we've decided to do.
Yeah.
So we have an ensuite, it'll be a walk-in wardrobe. And then in the future we can spend the 15 or 20 grand that costs to do the bathroom, but all the services are there. So, and I think by having somebody like Electric Ireland Superhomes working with you, it in itself gives you your ability to decide on your priorities.
Yeah. Like, as I say to people at the moment, any cost plan that I'm doing at present, I used to do a cost plan and generally it would be accepted and we'd move on to the next stage, on to planning. Whereas now I'm on edition 3 or edition 4 of every single one, because people can't, the costs have risen so much, it's coming to terms with that and the understanding of that. And then it's a reflection of that against the drawings, that they can't afford to build what is on the drawings. So we work through and we do the hard work at this stage. So we get a scheme that is at you know, that it's at a level that they're comfortable to spend, you know. So whether that be leaving out the sanitary ware and building the actual shell of the ensuite, or options like that, or sometimes making it smaller, you know, or sometimes looking at the space they have and making that work better. So it's not, it's, you know, it's a little bit about smaller spaces, I think, at the moment, to be honest. That's the way it's going. It's a bit of a reduction.
Used cleverly.
Used cleverly, exactly. It's, I call it lateral thinking, you know. So I definitely finding between architects and clients there's a lot more work happening at the early stages of the design concept and the paperwork stage, you know, before it moves to site, which is the right thing to do, you know.
Yeah, and I suppose that's what it comes back to again, is having conversations with the people you're working with,
Yeah.
and the experts that you're in touch with, tapping in with them, but not being afraid to say, I don't know about this, and maybe you need a little bit more wiggle room, and they'll come and meet you halfway. Obviously, as you said, architects and quantity surveyors are used to this at the moment. It's just become the norm, having to revisit.
It most certainly has, yeah.
Yeah.
And people's expectations, it's interesting when you meet people.
Yeah.
They have an expectation that that, you know, their money will spread out forever.
Yeah.
But that's not the reality. And
Yeah.
therefore you have to, you know, tailor what you're doing to your budget.
Yeah.
And again, that's where I believe the whole process of applying for the grants gives, in fact, the homeowner
Yeah.
the tools and discipline.
Yeah, yeah. Like I will always say to my homeowners, the grants are there, but I try not to use the grant at the beginning, if you know what I mean. We try and make it work without the grant, just in case there's any reason that they don't get it, or they're, you know, I don't want them 100% reliant on it. That's what I would always say. It's a bonus and you'll get it at the end, and that's brilliant, you know, and they'll have it in the back of their head. They'll always ask about it, but I would, at the early stages, note it, but never incorporate it into my costs, you know.
Yes, don't use it as a basis.
Don't
to build
use
your
it,
budget on.
exactly, don't
Yes.
use it,
No,
just
no,
in
you
case.
can't do
Yeah,
that.
you can't.
Don't
because
get the
it's
nicer kitchen because you think
absolutely,
it's
you know,
going.
yeah, exactly. So,
When you've got
Yeah.
your grant, get your kitchen.
yes, exactly, yeah, or your
Smart
curtains,
planning.
or your
Your
blinds.
curtain, yeah.
Yeah, or your loose furniture. I always say to people, I like to build my budget, and I like it to be that it's turnkey walk in. So you can move into this house, you can live in it, just bring your bed, bring your sofa, bring your table and chairs, you know. I always like to think that, you know, it's finished out from floor finishes to skirtings to decoration to sanctuary to your kitchen and your appliances. So it is really livable in. Because what I've heard over the years is when people repeat to me what the builder says he can build it for, and that's just a builder's shell, you know, it's not the finished product. And finishes are expensive, you know. Finishing out a house between floors and tiling and fitted furniture is a large chunk of money that, you know, is hard to comprehend until you're actually going through it and you realise how costly it can be.
And it's always that moment in Room to Improve where it's everything's coming together, and then you see the homeowners thinking, oh my God, I need to buy all these other things that I didn't think of. So really important to keep that in mind. Another couple of questions that came in were from people who are starting out on their home journey and they're going to view houses with a really, really bad BER. And the question is, how bad is too bad to take on and tackle? I know that's very difficult because it depends on individual houses, but is there a BER that you think that's just going to be too hard to get to the B2?
No, I don't believe
You don't think
no.
so? Well, you've been in so many amazing houses too that have been Fs and beyond.
I think if it's structurally fine,
Correct,
that's the most important,
yeah.
absolutely. And, you
And
know,
water.
and waterproof, watertight. The roof is in good condition, you know, and structurally it's right, and the floors are at the right level. So you're not doing massive structural work to it, you know. To bring up the insulation, to bring up the heating, it's kind of normal whether you have, you know, a semi-D or you have a 100-year-old house. So you're going to put the same into it, you know, as such. You have to respect the building and the materials, and if it needs to be breathable, you have to respect all of that. But I think structure is the most important. Once it's structurally sound, that's really what you're looking for when you're purchasing your home. Like, another way of looking at that is it gives you the opportunity to put your stamp on it then, you know, and you're not paying for that. You're not paying for a C home that maybe is, you're going to pull it apart and
Correct,
change it, you
correct.
know. So you're paying a premium in the purchase cost, you know, and it's going to cost you both sides then in the purchase and the upgrade. So you'd rather, I suppose, get an E or a G home and know that what you have to do with it, you know, once it's structurally sound. That's the most important thing.
And I also am of the opinion, particularly with what's going on in Europe at the moment, that just like a car has an NCT
NCT, yeah.
test, and you can't drive it,
Yeah.
you won't be able to sell your home in the future unless it meets certain criteria of a B or cert. So I think that in itself leads me to the opinion that now is the time to be retrofitting your homes and maximising the value of the home, because it will become one of the tick boxes in the future in sale of homes.
That's such a great point to make. You know, not everyone is in their forever home right now, but that's another way that you future-proof, is making it as energy efficient now, so that when the time does come to sell, I mean, it'll be snapped up. That's a really good point for people to remember too.
It is, yeah.
Okay, amazing. We have so many questions from followers. They were dying to pick your brain, so I'm going to get straight into it.
They're your followers. They're your followers. Because you're the money. You're the money.
Totally 50-50.
Fine.
We have to follow the money.
They see your
It's
finished
very
product,
important.
some people want to bury their head in the sand when it comes to the money.
So this person says, apart from replacing my windows and doors, what's the best way to lower my heating costs? Hugh, do you want to go there?
Oh, roof insulation. People always chime up and say, I have my roof insulated.
Oh, yeah.
That's a great
Yeah,
one.
and-
But it's 30 years ago.
Yeah.
And the fiberglass that it used to be
Yeah.
in those days used to start at 4 inches.
Yeah.
But it's now shrunk to about 2.
Yeah.
And so that all needs to come out. New insulation, put in proper new insulation, needs to be sealed and airtight. And it's actually about
400 mil
Yeah.
deep, yeah. Yeah, no, he's 100% right. The amount of people tell me my attic is insulated, and I get up and I look, I go, it really isn't worth anything, to be
Nothing.
honest with you. We put in 4 times the amount of insulation now in comparison to what they did over 10 years ago.
But it's also
yeah.
different insulation
Insulation,
because
yeah.
it retains its integrity.
Yeah.
And what you do is you put it in and then you seal between
Yeah.
each of the timbers so that you're sealing the roof.
Yeah.
And that's where you maximise your benefit.
Yeah, because heat rises. So the first thing, heat is going to do is rise up. So if you can insulate your attic. And it's not an expensive, in comparison to other areas of insulation, it's not the most expensive.
No, it isn't.
No.
It's really
and
good value.
It's non-invasive. It can be done when you're living in the house. You don't need to move out to do it. So definitely first port of call after your windows would be insulate your attic.
That moves us on to our next question. A follower wanted to know, if they're undertaking a deep retrofit, can they expect that they will need to leave their home for the duration?
It depends what they're doing, yeah. But I suppose if they're doing external wall insulation, there's a chance that they can work around it and you can live in your home. If you're doing dry lining internally, more than likely yes. If it's because otherwise it's piecemeal and it's done on a room by room. It's invasive. You're
All your
moving
wiring
around,
changes,
wiring
everything
changes.
changes.
So yeah.
So you're better off just, again, biting the bullet.
It
and
will be
just-
quicker and be more cost effective.
Correct, it will, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
And you
just
can
use-
move in with the mother-in-law, the aunt, there's
Yeah.
a myriad of
Yeah.
family,
Yeah.
friends, cousins, do you know?
Yeah.
Bring the dog.
Yeah.
Oh, and the children.
And the children.
Yeah, you have to bring the children.
Yeah.
So this follower says, they're in the process of buying a home. What should they be looking for to ensure they're not buying a house that'll be very costly to heat? Does that come back to our BER?
It does, very much so, comes back to the BER. So if you're an E or a G, that house is not going to be warm, and if you do heat it, the heat is going to go out the windows and the doors and the roof.
And
it's going to be
costly.
And
It's
it will
just
be
going to
costly.
be really
You're
costly.
going to have high utility.
From the minute you move in,
Yeah.
essentially.
Yeah.
I live in a house with I don't think
No.
it's even a G.
Okay, it's nothing. It's not even a
There's
good.
nothing. It's just hilarious.
So you're there.
It is freezing. It's just amazing. And the way I've always lived in houses that were warm.
Yeah. Yeah.
But now I'm living in a cold house.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing.
In what way? Just
Well, so you have to go around with slippers.
Yeah.
Because otherwise your feet are frozen.
cold, yeah.
Not cold.
Yeah.
They're frozen.
Frozen.
They're frozen. And it's just amazing.
So you're living in it now, Hugh, and it'll be
No,
retrofitted?
we're actually living in the cottage beside the house we're going to do up, which was very lucky. But, you just make an assumption that houses are warm.
You do.
But they aren't.
No, you're right, but that's because we work in the industry where we're constantly upgrading. So we're walking into houses that are finished and warm and really pleasant and lovely to look at. Like it drives my husband crazy. I come home and I go, I want to change this and do this. And he goes, God, stop it, stop it. But just to add to that, I am actually starting my extension now.
Oh, are you?
Yeah, I am.
Oh,
Yeah,
I can say at last.
At last, I got planning 2 years ago during COVID, and I sat on it and I waited, and then I said, you know what, like everybody else, what am I waiting for? You know, I need it now. I don't need it more in 5 years or 10 years. Now is when I need it. So yes, it's a little bit extra, but I'm going to pay it. And an overall bottom line, it's just part of it, and I just have to get on with it. No holidays.
No
this
holidays.
year. No.
I love that though, Patricia, you're right. If you do need something now, then actually what are you waiting for?
Exactly.
The time that you need it is passing if you don't.
It's passing, yeah, absolutely. So now's the time I need it. You know, I suppose what you need to understand is it's not instant. You know, there's a couple of months of planning in it. So, you know, my attitude is let's just go with it and get it done, you know.
And are you doing a retrofit?
No, I'm not. I'm doing an extension.
Fine.
Yeah, I did a retrofit 15 to 16 years ago and used my SEAI grants then.
Did you?
I did, yeah. So I would have got the boiler grant back then. I would have got the external wall insulation grant and the attic grant. Yeah, and the zoning, that's what I would have got. So, listen, which at the time did help, you know, and made a difference, but they're much greater now. The grants are much greater in value, which is brilliant to see. It really is. Definitely.
And the other thing, funny enough, is sometimes it's not practical to lift the floors and put in underfloor heating.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that you can't get to a B2 rating. You just have to offset or improve the rating of other elements, such as the wall insulation or perhaps the windows, to sort of offset what you can't do in the floor. So there are other ways to achieve a B2. And that's why the expertise and knowledge of somebody like Electric Ireland Super Homes is so important, because they will assist you in how to maximise the grants available.
And really important their point as well, Hugh, is that people might go into a retrofit having certain expectations, thinking, I'm going to have my underfloor heating. You just don't know. It really depends on the bones of the house.
Yeah, it does. And it depends what's there, you know, and, you know, is it a suspended timber floor, you know, and more than likely if it is, there's nothing been done with it for years and it's drafty because the timber needs to be vented, you know, and so the drafts come up through the floor, or it's a solid concrete floor and there's no insulation underneath it, you know. So it's kind of just, I suppose, picking and choosing what you're going to tackle, you know, and what's the best outcome, and what, from a cost point of view, as well as the BER at the end of it. Like I would say to someone, if it is suspended timber floor, this is the opportunity to lift it, you know, and put in a proper solid concrete floor with underfloor heating, you know, a radon barrier and proper insulation. It is the opportunity to do it. You won't get it again, to be honest. Concrete floor, I think you kind of need to think about that one, because there's a lot of kind of messing and dirt and hacking it up and taking it out and going back down to come back up again. So that one needs a bit of more consideration. So it really is important to get the experts in to advise, because every home is different.
Okay, that sort of keeps coming back.
And like today, just there's amazing. So some of the insulation, it is more expensive in 40 mil.
High density, yeah.
High density insulation can go into underfloor.
Yeah.
So that's of huge benefit in the older houses where they had no foundations. Yeah. So in our house, our foundations are about that.
Yeah, so you don't want to underpin.
So I don't underpin, but because I can use the high density insulation, I can still have my underfloor heating. So again, those are the things that an SEIA one-stop shop will assist you in sorting out.
Amazing. This follower says, I live in a semi-detached 1990s house. What would a deep retrofit involve for me? It sounds like it's cold and 90s. So it sounds like they're going to be doing everything, windows, roof.
I would say everything, Joe, to be honest with you. I would even say a floor as well. More than likely suspended timber floor. More than likely.
Well, no, we've one at the moment. It's a concrete floor.
Oh, it's concrete, is it?
No insulation.
And no insulation.
Sitting there, no insulation,
so
nothing.
The damp is coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the cold.
And it's freezing. And it's a 1990s house.
Okay.
So same idea, she could be dealing with a very, very good
space. With no reinforcement?
No, just lean mix. Poured on soil. Yeah.
This follower says, best retrofit solutions to ensure there's no dampness or condensation or mould in my 1920s home. Patricia, that's for you.
So he's saying so there's no damp.
He's worried about damp, condensation and mould. It sounds like he already has that issue, perhaps.
All those issues by the sounds of it, yeah. Well, obviously, it depends on the structure, you know, because if there's lime in that structure, we have to use a breathable insulation if we're going to insulate. So we have to let the walls breathe. So I would check One, if there's damp coming in, if there's ingress, where's the water and where's the damp coming from? Is it coming through the walls? Is it coming up through the floor? Because you need to resolve that before you insulate, before you do anything. So I would just remember, if it is of a 1920s and there is lime in it, it has to be a breathable insulation that he has to use, and you might have to ventilate the home, so just to keep the air flowing, and that will help with condensation and damp as well. So again, it needs the experts out to have a look. It's not one that I can really answer without knowing what
the house is like and what he's dealing with. Okay. This follower says, easiest first steps to help improve my parents' energy rating with a turf, fire and oil. So
Perfect combination. I think that's a perfect combination. Insulate the attic, seal and put in new windows, but try and get an element of air tightness, not fully, because you'll find that house requires air going through it, because that's what you always had. And then you're into difficult decisions at that point. Is the house suitable? It mightn't be for external insulation.
Yeah.
So you're then into much more costly intervention into the home.
And would that kind of home be eligible for a heat pump, do you think? They'd need to know the BER and...
Everything. And it may be more difficult to get up to a B2 without a really deep retrofit. Would that be fair?
Yeah, it would, yeah.
So he can obviously, that follower can get on to the experts and maybe ask for on his parents' behalf and just see what they're dealing with.
Yeah.
Like, interestingly, one of the houses that we was in the show last year used insulated lime mortar on the outside.
Yeah.
And hemp
with the cork
mortar
in it.
Yeah, and on the inside a hemp.
Okay.
And was able to achieve a B2.
Brilliant. Wow.
Hemp sounds very cool.
Yeah.
That's a new type of insulation.
No, it's old actually. It's lime mortar with hemp in it. But they were able to achieve a B2.
And that's more breathable, is it?
Oh, the whole wall just is happy, breathes away.
Yeah.
Wow,
but it's very specialist and it's
It
very
is, yeah.
costly.
Well,
So,
no, we can do a course together.
Can we? Yeah.
You and I can go down to Carlo.
I'm very good with my hands.
Carlo. Come on. No, this would be great for you.
Yeah,
Shall we
it
go
would.
down to
It would.
Carlo and
Be
we'll
part of my CPD.
We'll be doing, come on now, a bit of lime mortaring. That's all.
Yeah.
There you go.
Time is your own. This follower says, I need to replace my oil boiler. Is a combi or condenser better?
I'm not sure any of those solutions are better, to be honest. If they do need to replace it, I would be looking at an alternative source altogether, like a renewable, like a heat pump,
Yes.
to be honest. And maybe even with that, they might look at PVA panels to run the heat pump. The electricity, because the heat pump runs on electricity, so the two will go hand in hand. So I'd probably be going that route. But again, if the house isn't warm, that needs to be given consideration as well.
What again is the best solution is actually a gas condenser boiler. They're the most efficient. But the way it should be designed is that in the future you can disconnect the gas and put in a heat pump. Because as I say, in my opinion, over the next 5 to 10 years, there'll be such advances in the heat pump and its ability and efficiencies that you just need to allow that opportunity.
Okay, fantastic. Is this follower wants to know, which I think leads on to the last question, is this a good time to consider a heat pump LED retrofit? Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Absolutely,
Yeah, yes.
absolutely. Like, I suppose, to give you an example, I don't have a heat pump in my house. When I upgraded 15, 16 years ago, I put in a high efficiency oil boiler, and I have a mix of underfloor heating and radiators in the old part of the house. So my plan is now to put in a heat pump to take the underfloor heating and the extension and the old extension, shall we say. But I will keep the oil boiler for the moment, and I'll run a hybrid for a couple of years until I have a more efficient heat pump that will run my radiators, because the heat pump will run at a low temperature and the radiators that I have are high temperature. So I'm just waiting for that efficiency to improve, and then I'll do a switch over.
Great that you can run a hybrid for the time being and do both until the technology has caught up.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is, you see, in Ireland, you'll find that probably by the end of March, you can actually run your system on the air to water, because you're not looking to heat the house, if you
Yeah.
know what I mean. You're looking to just introduce a bit of background heat.
Yeah, yeah.
And so that's where that combination really comes in very well.
This follower wants to know what are the best ways to keep their bills low at the moment. They're not in a position to look for grants or make any big changes. They just want to keep an eye on things. Any advice?
Insulate the roof.
Insulate
Honestly.
the roof. If they've an open fire, put in a stove.
Oh.
Secondary, because the
And
heat
that's-
loss through an open fire is incredible. Yeah, put in a stove. You know, it immediately seal that, you know, the airflow, and then it's an extra source of heat, and it's not expensive. It's a couple of €1,000, you know.
You would get
Yeah.
get a fabulous stove.
Yeah, stove.
So a stove and attic insulation
would make a big difference, you know.
huge.
And then what are the biggest misconceptions people have about doing a retrofit? You know, people, obviously we're having this conversation, it's becoming more and more common to have the conversation, but when you talk to people, what are their biggest maybe fears or worries about undertaking a big project like that?
I think it's the unknown, to be honest, and it's the learning curve and where they start and what they do, and you know, do they, as the queries are coming in, do I start with the windows or start with the walls or start with the attic? People just don't know, to be fair. If you're not in this industry, you don't know. And I suppose even me and Hugh don't know till we go and look at your house, you know. So really the start is to get that assessor in to come out and do the report on your home and to advise you what you need to do. So I would put a plan in place, you know, and let the experts take you through the process step by step. That's what they're there for.
Any misconceptions or worries you hear?
Well, I think people have a misconception that it's sort of a big elephant. And I think, as you said, it's where do I start? How do
Yeah.
I start? And that is the purpose of, you know, Electric Ireland Superhomes, is they are a one-stop shop. They will assist you on your journey. But also do understand there's a cost associated with this. And while there may be grants and financial assistance in terms of getting a loan, when you're doing a retrofit, you're then going, well, maybe it's time to do the bathroom.
Yeah.
And that's where something that is 60,000 fit out or retrofit all of a sudden becomes 110. And so therefore, you know, there really is that fine balancing act, because you are undertaking so much money. There is also the opportunity to do that bathroom you always wanted to do.
Yeah.
Would that be fair?
Absolutely, yeah. And I suppose there is the upgrade cost, and then there's the hidden, you can call it the hidden cost, which is, you know, the redecoration, the reflooring, or then if you are going into saying, I'm going to change my kitchen now, it grows, you know, it can grow. So just to be careful.
And then anything that both of you wish you had known. You've both overseen, Hugh, you've been at some amazing projects all over the country. You're doing your own renovation. Patricia, you're on site all the time. Anything you wish you would have known yourself before, you know, you started your own projects? I know you're facing into another project soon. Or is it just to trust the experts, set your budget?
Trust the experts, set your budget, and you know what, give it time. You know, give it the time it deserves. The amount of people that just want it done and they're rushing it, and when can the builder start, when can they be finished? You know, it is labour intensive and it does take time. So please give it the time it deserves. You'll get a better quality build and finish at the end. So be patient, is what I would say.
And that's a difficult thing for
It
people
is.
to do.
Yeah.
Okay, be patient. Hugh, any other advice?
Well, I think a lot of people buy houses, employ an architect and put an extension on, and don't live in the house.
Yeah, they do. You're right. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then that's where they make the big mistake. You know, you need to live in the house, because maybe
Yeah.
you don't need to put the extension on.
No, you know.
Or if you do need to put it on, that at least you put it in the right place. So one of the things that we were involved with is somebody who'd built an extension blocking the sun.
Yeah. Ooh. Okay.
So
Yeah.
when we came down, he said, what are we going to do? And I said, oh, we'll demolish the extension and we'll put it on the other side. And that's what we had to do.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
So you need to live in your home, if you can at all. And then that gives you time to assess things. Because maybe more importantly is to do the retrofit, to understand where the extension is going to go in the future. But in fact, it's to have a warm and cosy home from the outset.
So understanding how you use your space is really important.
Absolutely.
Instead of just rushing into, because I'm sure the temptation is there if you've bought new and you have the time and you have the
And
expertise.
It is. I know if it is a G rating and it's going to be cold and drafty and you're doing very well in living in your cottage, it is. And I suppose if you've 3 kids and you're moving out of a warm house that maybe is smaller and this is a bigger home and it's going to be cold, it might be hard, to move into that situation, and the cooker mightn't be as efficient and the heating, and nothing's working properly. So I suppose be prepared, is what I would say. But it will give you a feel for the nuts and bolts of the house. I did it in mine. I lived through that. Single glazing for a year and a half, an open fire. I mean, I got up in the morning, lit the fire to heat the house. Yeah, I did that for a year and a half.
Did you not use slag? We used to put slag on the fire. Like the old wet coal.
No.
And then you come down,
in the morning
and bash it, and there
and
you
I
had
would
the
go
fire.
again. No, nobody told me that.
Oh, Jesus.
So I did that for a year and a half.
I'm too old for you now. Am I too old for you? I'm too old for you.
No, I just didn't have the right advice at the time. No, so I definitely did that and would highly recommend it. But I can understand why people mightn't want to do it. It is hard, there's no doubt about it. But it does give you that good feeling and depth. And it lets you know the neighbours, the lay of the land, where the sun is coming up, where you eat your breakfast, where you sit in the evening, what you do around the house at the weekend.
Is the street quiet?
Yeah, it really
All
does.
sorts of things.
Yeah, it does make a difference. You're probably going into that meeting with that architect knowing what you really want from the house.
And what's really going to serve you going forward.
Yeah, how you're going to live in it, and that's very important.
And funnily enough, because you're spending so much money, it's very difficult to undo what you've done.
It is, yeah.
Once you make a decision.
Well, if you put the extension on the wrong side.
Yeah, like your poor friend who's undoing it, definitely don't need that. So go for it, don't be afraid to go for it, but then when you're going for it, take your time and have that bit of patience to make the right choices.
Yeah.
That's real future proofing. Yeah. Hugh and Patricia, thank you so much for your expertise. Can't wait to see you in a couple of weeks' time.
Thank you, Joe.
Looking forward to it. Thank you, Joe.
That's all the time we have for today. A big thank you to Hugh and Patricia for taking part in the second Permanent TSB Ideal Home Show Meet the Experts panel discussion, and for their fabulous advice. We can't wait to see you at the show this year. You can meet Hugh on Saturday the 22nd at the Electric Ireland Super Home stand at the RDS, where the team are on hand to discuss your home energy upgrade options. Patricia will be joining me at the DFS Interiors Theatre on Friday the 21st and Saturday the 22nd, so be sure to visit the DFS Inspiration Theatre. Today's beautiful set was styled by Stages Lifestyle, who offer a beautiful range of furniture and sustainable homeware. Their service includes interior design and home staging. I'm looking forward to meeting you all at the DFS Interiors Theatre. I'll be there every day of the show, interviewing a fantastic lineup of industry leaders and experts, discussing interior design trends, decor, home makeovers, home extensions, upcycling, finance, and loads more. And finally, don't forget there's an early bird offer of 2 free adult tickets for a day of your choice. This is only available for a very limited time, so make sure you register for your tickets as soon as you can at idealhome.ie.